Welcome, welcome everyone to Satsang. Are there any burning questions or anything that anybody wants to kick Satsang off with? That you're willing to share, I should add. That you're actually willing to ask. Nothing going on. Everybody's completely settled inside. It's okay. All right. Then there's something I want to share with you. The meme, on Mondays, if you signed in, if you signed in on the iPad one time or another, I'm going to put you into the email and the text. And on Monday mornings, I send the What's Happening email, and that includes the Monday morning meme, and I also text a shorter version of that too to you, so that I'm always trying to let you know what's going on and get information to you. This will be the fourth satsang that's recorded that I haven't uploaded to the YouTube channel. So this week, all four of those will get uploaded so that you can refer to them whenever you'd like. Sometimes it's good to listen to those when you're exercising and things like that, because this is really based on repetitive learning. You got to hear this over and over and over again for it to really start sinking in and really start making sense. Okay? So the meme that I sent this week says, "It seems like you have a problem with your life, but in reality you don't. You have a problem with your mind. Life is impermanent and bound to change. When impermanence and change occur, your mind resists. That's the problem. What would your life be like if you not only accepted change, but embraced it as the way here on earth?" So the first part of that is, I just want to turn these lights up just a little bit so I can see a little better. Okay. So the first part of that is, do you realize that it seems an awful lot in life that life has problems, and that there are these problems that I'm dealing with. But do you realize that what's really going on, what the real problem is your mind's reaction to life? You're realizing it more. And really, that's what Peaceful Mind Center is about, is to help you see things that are right in front of your face that you can't see. We're born into this world that is unconscious and suffering, and we just do what everybody else does. We just did what people taught us. It's funny, as I got more and more into my own path and my own process, I would think, God, how couldn't I see these things? They were right in front of my face the whole time. And so, what I wonder now is, what's right in front of my face right now that I can't see? It's amazing, because once you get a glimpse of this, it seems so obvious. But until then, it doesn't even exist in your world. You don't even realize it. That what's happening, what the problem is the way that we are reacting internally. Did you ever have a friend who something happened to and they didn't get upset about it, and you were kind of upset that they weren't upset? Because it's like, how can you not be upset about that? You what? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we feel sort of an obligation to be upset or something's wrong. Or what? Yeah. Absolutely it is. It's automatic. I'm going to ask you eventually to start speaking into the microphone so everyone can hear. But it is definitely, you know, when I studied with one of the Rinpoches, he used to say constantly that we're such slaves to our conditioning. We're such slaves to our conditioned mind. And this is one of the things that we really have to bring out into the open, is that we are wired a certain way. And the difficulty in that is actually seeing our own personal wiring. Because we've been doing that way so long that we don't even notice that we're doing it. We might notice the results. We might notice the effects. You know what I mean? You know, we keep getting the same effect. You know what I mean? We keep choosing the same romantic partner over and over again, and swearing we're not doing it. And the next thing you know, we're right there in the middle of it again going, how did this happen? I swore I wasn't doing it. And I'm in the same situation I was in again. Happens over and over again. It's very easy to see other people's conditioning, but it's very hard to see your own. It's really hard to see yourself from the outside in. I always wondered if I could hire like a camera crew to kind of quietly film me and record me all day so that I could watch myself. Like, why did I say that? Why am I sitting that way? Why do I have that look? It's been very interesting to be recording these and watching myself on film. It's changed the way that I teach sometimes. It changed the way that I sit, the way that I, it's very interesting to see yourself from the outside in, let me tell you. But it's very objective. And it's hard to be objective with yourself. So in life, things happen. Things are happening. And things are constantly changing on a moment-to-moment basis. But we resist those changes. Is that not the stupidest thing possible? In a world where moment to moment everything is always changing, getting upset when something is changing is absolute foolishness. The opposite of that is embracing change. Is knowing that everything changes and just rolling with it. Accepting it. Even enjoying it. Who enjoys change? We want to make concrete and stable a world that is not and has never been concrete and stable, or safe, or reliable, or predictable. Period. So you can see how this would confound your mind. When you do this, you're fighting the tide. You're fighting the weather. Are you beginning in your mind to kind of think back? Are you saying to yourself, yeah, I do that? Doesn't feel good, does it? Because that's the problem. We just want to feel good. But the mind and our misunderstandings of the mind just make it so hard to feel good. The mind is saying, no, I want things to stay the same. I want things to always be consistent. And the world is like, well, it's okay that you want that, but we're not going to change for you. And so this is one of the ways that we really create suffering for ourselves, is by not embracing change. And when I say create suffering, I mean it really can create pain and discomfort in us on a regular basis, on a daily basis, on a moment-to-moment basis. And you're going to find that when you start to become really conscious of this, that a lot of how you behave, how you think, and what you do is motivated by discomfort. It might be a lot of discomfort. Those things are very obvious. But what about the subtle discomfort? What about the little things? What about the email you get from a coworker, and all of a sudden, and next thing you know, you're in the kitchen eating cake or doing something to try and smooth yourself out. And you're not even conscious that you're doing all of this stuff, and you're not even conscious why. It all happens unconsciously. And the way that we know that is that we would never consciously create that garbage for ourselves. So we know that the mind is just doing its thing. You know, computers are programmed with code, right? They call it code. There's different kinds of code. Well, your brain is like a computer, and it's programmed. It's coded. Your code, your computer language is English language. What's the difference between English language and computer code? Anybody here ever read computer code? It's just letters and numbers and words, and you know what I mean, it's just like letters and numbers and words that we think and be in our minds. Code is code. And people around the world have different code, speak different languages. The distinctions are different. The words are different. The perceiving is different. I think I've heard in Alaska they have like, 100 words or something nutty for snow. So they experience snow in a way that you and I can't with our 3 words, with our different coding. Am I making sense so far? Are there any comments or questions so far? Okay. You've said, possibly even today, that my mind, I can't get my mind to settle down. I can't get my mind to cooperate. In your own rhetoric, in your own words, there is a my, and that my has a mind. And they're not the same thing. In your own words, you know this. Now the mind is easy because the mind is always the one making the racket and, the constant thinking and all this other stuff. Very easy to identify the mind. But what about the one that is aware of the mind? What about the one who is saying my mind? What about the one that is separate from the mind? Can you see that there are really 2 things there? That there is the racket in the mind, and there is that which is aware of the racket in the mind, and that they're not the same thing. Can you see this? If you're new here, you're jumping into a class that's been going on for years. So you're right in the PhD program. Okay? So if you're not recognizing this, that's okay. Again, this is repetitive learning. You need to hear this over and over and over again. because I am just taking a sledgehammer to your world. And I am just busting it up, and your mind is not going to like that. I'm going to do it very gently and very lovingly. I am going to demonstrate to you that, that the way that you have been perceiving has not been at all clear or accurate. What you believe to be you is not you. What you believe to be real is not real. Your mind's going to hate me for that. Because you're going to have a little bit of an identity crisis. And there's going to be lots and lots of resistance. Most likely. But what I'm asking you to let go of is your confusions. And the source of your suffering, which is your confusions, which is your misunderstandings. It's hard for me to relate. I've been hearing this rhetoric and now teaching this rhetoric for so long. Sometimes I sit and I wonder, what would it be like to hear this for the first time? I would probably think that I was crazy. I try to present this in a way that makes me sound not crazy. I don't know how good that comes across, but 50, yeah, But we exist with like a level of discomfort. And it can be very subtle discomfort. But it's usually us in life, we're moving away from our discomfort and we're not moving toward what we love. And this is really a wonderful juxtaposition. When I realized in my practice that I was just kind of backing away from the things that I was afraid of, moving away from what was creating discomfort in me. But when I was doing that, I couldn't see where I was going. And I was just kind of finding myself places, finding myself in situations. And it wasn't until I turned around and I opened my eyes and I said, okay, this is consciously what I want to create. What is causal in this to manifest? And started focusing on the causes of what I was intending to manifest, then I became the driver of my own bus. But before that, it was just the ego driving the bus, and the ego was always like looking for the first cliff to pull off, and just, Did that make sense? A little bit? You see what I'm saying? It's very important. And I'm not saying that we're all in hell, and I'm not saying that our lives are terrible. I'm saying that there is a lot more discomfort there than you realize and are willing to admit. And it happens so often, you know what I mean? This tightness, this Shempa feeling that, that you just feel a little off, a little weird. But it happens so often throughout the day, you're not conscious of it. And I want you to be conscious of it. Okay. Just warm it up. All right. I don't think that, I don't know that mic's on yet, so you can just hold the button and a green light will come on.
I'm trying to relate this all to motivation, because I'm having issues with motivation. And so but what you were saying was backing away from the discomfort. Yeah, how can what's my issue with motivation?
Are you asking me specifically in areas of life that you are not motivated? Is that what it is?
I guess because I don't feel like I'm resisting change. I think I'm cool with change,
Mm-hmm.
but and kind of going with the flow. But the flow can mean don't do anything difficult. Don't go out there and exercise. Don't go out there and do, things that are going to make you feel good. So you started touching on it about going toward what you want.
I'm right now. What I'm trying to do is discern your question.
I don't know what my question is.
Okay, that makes two of us. But I appreciate what you're saying because I think you're trying to feel your way through it, right? And you're trying to feel your way to this kind of feeling that you're feeling that you saying that you lack motivation. So when you say you lack motivation, the feel of that to me is that, there are things that I desire. You know what I mean? Yet I don't get up and do the things that I know are causal in that. One of the ones is exercise, right? Like who here doesn't want to be in the best shape of their life? I mean, really, right?
That's what I have to tell myself.
Yeah, but when it comes to doing that exercise and doing what's causal in that, which is extraordinarily simple and straightforward, we're not motivated. It's a very interesting moment. What is our resistance? Did you ever hear, let me see if I can find it real quick. I know right where it is.
You should be able to find it.
Yeah. Don't bet on that. I think I went past it. Let me try another place.
Feel free to talk among yourselves.
Yeah. You see that, Mike Myers? I give you a subject, right? I'm so verklempt. Okay. I forget who this was written by. It was not written by Marianne Williamson, although she was credited with it often. It was something that she quoted from someone else, and I can't remember who the author was. But this is called Our Deepest Fear. Okay? You ever heard this? Really good. Our deepest fear is not that we are adequate or inadequate. Let me start over. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, and it is not in just some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear. Our presence automatically liberates others. Listen to it again. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not in just some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So, ask me how it feels to be a spiritual teacher, to be on camera, to be in front of a bunch of people, talking about things that most people have never heard of, listening to the scrutiny, being in the crosshairs of people's judgments. It's charming. And when you think about people, who have spoken possibility in the world and have dared to step out of the box, they were not greeted very kindly by the world.
We killed that one guy.
Killed a lot of them. Jesus crucified, right?
That's the guy who's
Gandhi shot, right? Martin Luther King shot. Nelson Mandela in prison for 27 years. My odds are not good. But there is a strange resistance that we have, and we want to play small and stay small and protect ourselves, and that is motivated by fear. Just is.
I'm hearing you talk about fear and conditioning and things like that, and what it's making me realize is that I'm still using an operating system that's millions of years old that was meant to keep me alive.
Yeah.
And it thinks that anything different is dangerous, and that's why it makes me feel uncomfortable to do it. Yeah. We talked about rejection, doing the same thing. Yeah. So unless I'm able to figure out a way to bypass the part of my brain that's just trying to keep me alive a million years ago, I'm never going to be able to embrace change as a good thing or even a thing that's not to be feared.
Yes.
So the rewiring that you talk about is probably as important as anything, is to be able to bypass that lower level, that limbic system, the amygdala, and all that other big words that people use when they talk about the brain.
Yeah, all of those, when we talk a lot about like animals in here, like when an animal, my cat, who's been nothing but coddled his whole life and spoiled and taken care of like to the best anybody could possibly take care of him. If I move too quick, he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm like, and it's just kind of wired into us for sure. I used to think about evolution as like evolution is something that happened, right? No, it's something that's still happening. We're still evolving. People are going to look back on us 500 years from now and go, could you believe those cave people, what they used to do, And, driving cars on dinosaur oil and, we're going to be the Flintstones one day to somebody else. It's all relative, right? But, What's the first thing, Tom? What's the most important thing? Like when it comes to this wiring and stuff, that you want to change, what's the first thing that you have to do?
Realize that it exists.
Yes. You have to be aware of it. You're not going to change something you're not aware of. You know what I mean? You can't. So the first thing is for you to say, hey, I got this ancient wiring. You know, I'm wired like a Neanderthal that was designed to, live in tribes and survive and all of these things. Yeah, you got this ancient wiring that you're competing with, sort of. Not competing with, but what's the word I'm looking for? That you're working with. I want to be gentle.
It's like we want to do stuff. It's like we're trying to to use a disk drive to read a floppy disk.
Yeah.
That it's not prepared to do that. So until
Yeah.
we upgrade the system that we're using, it's not gonna.
Here's a great question. How many times in life have you looked at your own self and said, "What the hell am I doing?" How many? Hey, like, you don't even understand your own behavior. How do you expect the people around you to understand it? Isn't that crazy when you don't even understand what the hell you're doing?
And then we try to figure out what somebody else is doing.
Yeah.
Based on how we're looking at ourselves, that we don't know what's going on.
It's quite a challenge. It's very, very interesting. And when you raise your awareness this way and you begin to look at yourself from this perspective, everything changes. Because you're starting to look at yourself from the outside in. And you're starting to become aware of, I want to be in shape. Why am I not working out today? Well, because laziness, right? But the point is, though, is that the only thing between you and your dreams is your mind and the way your mind is wired. The only thing that can stop you is you. I mean, you watched Elon Musk, shoot a rocket into outer space and then land both boosters simultaneously right on the ground. If he can do that, you can work out every day. Over and over again, humanity has shown that anything is possible for a human being. But it's always the ones that are able to get past themselves. And when you hear their stories are 100 miles of bumpy road. It wasn't easy for anybody. Nobody gets a free ride. But it's how you deal with yourself that's so important. It's so interesting when you think of it this way. When and this goes right back to the quote. You know what I mean? You think the problem is out there. The problem is not out there. The problem is always in here. You're with somebody for 10 years, and then they start cheating on you. Their communication is fairly obvious. They don't want to be with you anymore. Or maybe they do and they're scared and they sabotaged it and they got their own garbage or whatever. But clearly, they're wanting to end that. That is one of the most painful things that we can experience for most of us. And then you become motivated by your pain. And then you get all tied up in knots inside. And your problem is not what happened out there. What that person did, they already did. It's already in the past. It's done. And it feels so much like you're dealing with them. And it feels so much like they're the one that is the cause of the pain. No, they're not. You are. You are the cause of your own pain. And you can stop causing that pain. I'm not saying that it's easy. And I'm not saying that when something bad happens like that, you shouldn't be sad or you shouldn't be upset. Don't hear that. Because you're not going to escape being human, and I don't want to set some bar for you that's not realistic. You're going to be sad. You're going to hurt. But it's how you deal with your hurt. If you've been in a relationship for some time and your partner comes up to you and says, I don't know, I'm not feeling this anymore. The appropriate answer is okay. What are you going to do? I mean, all the kicking and screaming and crying and knots and all this other stuff that's going to go on inside you, it doesn't do anything. You get to decide how much you suffer before you accept reality. It's true. It's what you do to yourself and your own belief system about yourself, and how when something like that, if you have a negative core belief system about yourself and then someone comes and breaks up with you, then your ego goes, see, here we go, boom, 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 you're no good, you're not good enough, you're not attractive, nobody wants you, there's never going to be anybody for you, and this is proof, and it's all garbage. But these are the kind of things that our primitive mind does to us. Not fun. But when you realize that you are not the mind, and you realize that you are the one aware of what the mind is programmed to do, and you're looking at that, you can say to the mind, stop it. Go lay down. This is not helpful. Sadness you will feel. Sadness is not suffering. Sadness is a catharsis. Sadness heals you. It's when you put a lid on your sadness, you're making a huge mistake. When you're sad, be sad. You ever notice, like, when you cry and cry, like, you feel better when you're done? Almost in the same way, if you drank too much booze and you throw up, you feel better. It's kind of the same kind of thing, right? What'd you say?
You're integrating trauma.
What do you mean?
You're actually allowing your body to process
Yeah.
the trauma instead of resisting it, where it's just going to fester or become a chemical in your body. Or
Yeah.
right, they talk about emotions being the chemical residue of a thought.
Yeah.
So when you resist letting that integrate, you're actually storing it somewhere in your body.
Yeah.
Which is when people go, like, they lose weight and stuff like that, there's some mood swings that go on there, and a lot of it's because these chemicals are being released back into the body.
And triggering
Yeah,
and
and it's
reminding.
going, whoa, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
yeah.
what your body feels when rejection or whatever it is feels like this.
Yeah.
So when that just shows up, it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell did I do?
Yeah.
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 It's kind of
good stuff.
interesting.
Yeah, good stuff. And so you can see that what we're always struggling with is our humanity, is our humanness. And our misunderstandings of our humanness and how it works. But mostly what it is our relationship to our own pain. You notice that you're a different person when you're in pain? You think differently, you perceive differently, you act and speak differently. You may be aggressive, you may be withdrawn. I can see a person in pain 10 miles away now. We talk about our nature is loving, kind, compassionate, and patient. And compassion is really being able to see another suffering and having a desire in body, speech, or mind to help them end that suffering. So if there's something you can do, you do it. If there's something you can say, you say it. If you can't, then you can think kind things. And that's even healing, right? But the hardest part about that is actually seeing another person's suffering. When someone has a broken leg, we want to go help them. It doesn't matter even who it is. It could be the person you like least in the world. They just fell down and broke their leg. You go, oh my God. and you come running up, let me get an ambulance for you. Let's get you together here, and you would take care of them. But when someone has a broken mind, you want to knock them over the head. And a broken mind is way more painful than a broken leg. Pain is such an interesting thing to talk about because we've got to get present to our pain. We run from our pain. This is why people drink and do drugs and shop and spend and watch too much TV or video games or whatever. Is because we're feeling discomfort and we're moving away from that discomfort. We're wanting to push it away. We're wanting to put it down. We're wanting to numb it. I'm inviting you tonight to get present to it. Anybody want their money back? Which is completely the opposite of what I was trained to do, and what I did for the first half of my life. But when you really face it, when you really embrace your discomfort, you begin to have a much different relationship to it, and sooner or later, you're not being motivated by it anymore. Because you're staying present to it. And when you get present, like really present to these uncomfortable sensations in your body, when you just bring your consciousness to them, has anybody here done this? What happens? They go away.
It's reminded me of everything you said about equanimity, right? It just comes and goes. Good things, bad things. It's just a duality. It's in your head. But everything is meant to pass. But when you fight it, you keep it there.
Yet what you resist persists, right? You've heard that. When you allow things, when you bring your consciousness to them, okay? When you bring your consciousness to pain, it's really hard to find anything there. It's this kind of elusive whack-a-mole kind of like, all right, I feel this weird sensation here in my chest, and all right, now it's gone, now it's over here, now it's, you know what I mean? And you're starting to watch it, and you're like, what is this discomfort? This discomfort is just something that I think is just sort of somehow bred into us. When you think about like the people you grew up around, think of the people, like discomfort, like it's just been around so long that we kind of stopped noticing it. Or even an identity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
oh, look at me, I get to handle so much stress and I can do this. You think your life sucks. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So what if the question about motivation is really being able to sit with the feeling that you don't want to do it until it goes away and you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, all of this, is about consciousness, about being consciously aware. And you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm sitting here and I want a clean house and the house is dirty, but something about me doesn't want to get off the couch. Just conditioning. And so if you bring your attention to your resistance, you're not really going to find anything there either, other than a conditioned habitual way of thinking and being. Now that can be changed. Now for me, when I was a kid, if anything, my mother took way too good of care of me. I'm 100% Italian mom, and I knew if I left something laying around long enough, somebody's going to clean it up for me. So what did I learn? I learned to be a slob. And I also did learn, though, from my mother, because my mother and my uncle always say, that my mother and my grandmother used to commit like chemical warfare on the house every Saturday, you know? And our house was spick and span clean. My mom kept our house so ridiculously clean. And I learned from that too. You know what I mean? And once I started to realize, now what motivates me, okay, this is very, very important. So make sure you're listening. I understand clearly that my world is my mind. Okay? And I understand that when my mind is in a good place, my world is an awesome place to be. When my mind is in a difficult place, my world sucks, for lack of a better term. Okay? I know that there are causes and conditions that create the environment for my mind to be in a beautiful, peaceful, placid place. And what motivates me always, the top of my pyramid, all the things that I do, okay, are to create the causes and conditions for my mind to be peaceful. So, why do I work out? Because it affects my brain chemistry in a very positive way, gives me lots of energy, right? And I'm in a great mood. Do I like it when I'm on my bike and I'm, going into a 20-mile-an-hour wind on the way home and my legs feel like, they're on fire? That's not the funnest part of it. But when I get off and I have a good meal, I feel amazing. When I make a vegetable juice, it takes me about 30 minutes to make and clean up vegetable juice, right? Not the funnest thing, but when I drink it, I feel amazing and my mind feels amazing. When I'm hydrated, when my house is clean, when my bills are paid, and when I'm meditating, when I'm eating well and make sure that I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, getting a juice, getting my supplements in. My mind is pristine and placid, and that motivates me. Your entire world is your mind. We don't live on the same world. I mean, we all live on the same world. We don't live in the same world. We live in the world of our minds, which is why we're all having different experiences in the same place. And so, once you begin to see this, we have a desire for peacefulness and happiness. That's a state of mind. What's the motto for the Peaceful Mind Center? Happiness is not a state of life. Happiness is a state of mind. And I think that the thing that confounds me the most about human beings is how we resist doing what we 150% know without a doubt is good for us. We're ridiculous that way. It makes zero sense. There's no way you can make sense of that. In fact, it's a good way for me to get people to not do things. Just tell them it's good. I'll tell you it's good for you, and you're like, that's a liar. Yeah. It's the strangest thing. For whatever reason, the whys don't matter. You know what I mean? But when you notice this about yourself, now you're starting to understand even on a deeper level what I'm talking about when I say practice. Because spirituality is not an understanding. You'll come to Satsang for an understanding, but spirituality is a practice. It's a daily practice. What's it a daily practice of? What are you practicing every day?
Taking back your
Mm-hmm.
attention.
Meaning sort of guiding your attention?
Yeah, and choosing where you put it is instead of letting it just run amok and go where it wants.
Mm-hmm. So, part of your practice is guiding your attention, right? Part of your practice is being aware of pain. Part Part of your practice is nutrition and the way you eat every day. Part of your practice is staying hydrated. But ultimately, the fruit of that practice is being able to maintain your mind in the state that you consciously want it to be in. That's what you're practicing. Holding your mind in a peaceful, present, placid state. The mind right now is the complete opposite of that most of the time. To some degree of the complete opposite of that. What you're really practicing is being happy, being joyful, getting comfortable in being happy and joyful. We're so comfortable in negativity. We're so comfortable in discomfort, in miserableness. The negativity, one of the best things you can do is go home tonight and throw your TV out the window. It's just imbued with negativity. And so your mind, I've equated the mind oftentimes to a pond on a calm summer's day. This is how subtle your mind is, okay? Now, enlightenment is seeing things clearly as they are, right? And the reason that we don't see things clearly as they are is because our mind and our conditioned mind is filtering everything and skewing and distorting everything, okay? Your mind in an enlightened present state is like a pond on a calm summer's day. It's like a sheet of glass, right? And when you look into that pond, you see a reflection of the world around it that's perfect representation of the world around it, completely undistorted. But what happens when you throw one pebble in that pond? It disrupts the whole pond. And in the disrupting of the pond, it skews and distorts the view of the world around it. That's how subtle your mind is. So when I was a kid and I was throwing Jaeger bombs in my mind, that was like throwing boulders in my pond. And wonder why I'm depressed, right? I mean, like, am I crazy? You have the most sensitive, intricate, amazing, complex object in the universe right here on your shoulders. And you don't know how to use it, and you don't know how it works. That's what I'm here to teach you. But this is a complex machine. Really complex. And it can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. And that's why I started Peaceful Mind Center. Because I was in suffering and found my way mostly out of it. And I want to help other people do that. And you'll do the same thing, hopefully. See what's happening? You're starting to understand your own mind a little bit? It's fun when you do. This is good news. You should all be smiling. We don't look so glum. Everybody's like, oh man, my mind is completely screwed. I didn't realize how screwed up I am. Now I know how screwed up I am. I don't know what to do. Listen, you're not screwed up. You know, you got a computer without a manual. That's all that happened. I want to give you the manual. Go ahead.
So this is kind of like the evolution of the mind. You're starting to learn how to use it.
I would rather, yes, but I would rather have in your mind breaking free from identification with mind. You know? Like realizing that I am the one that is aware of what the mind is doing, whether I can affect it or not. Okay? Once you have that perspective, you know, then it doesn't matter what the mind does. When the mind is you, then the mind's got you by the throat. Because how can you get away from you? But when you realize that the mind is observed, that you are the one observing the mind, now the jig is up for the mind. Now the mind can kick and scream like a baby throwing a tantrum, and you don't even have to be interested in it. You're starting to gain that separation from the mind. And when you gain that separation from the mind, it also gives you an objective view of the mind. It gives you objectivity. You understand what I mean by that? That now you are the one just observing and watching the mind. It's not you. The thoughts in the mind are not you. Thank God, right? You ever have a thought and be like, wow, that was a weird thought. Where did that come from? Glad nobody else could hear that, you know? And so, as you begin to practice and as you begin to break down your ignorance about your humanity and your human existence, you know, clarity will come. And this is what they mean when they say enlightenment is seeing things clearly as they are. You're seeing your mind clearly as it is. You're seeing your humanity clearly as it is. And when you become consciously aware that you are not the mind, then the mind can no longer torture you like that. And then the mind becomes the humble servant instead of the tyrannical master. I've been studying my mind for over 25 years now. I've lived alone in New Jersey for 10 years. I lived alone in Florida for 15. Was not really my intention, just how it worked out. I've been almost in hermitage, they would call it in Buddhism. I've been in my cave. And I can tell you that it was worth every minute to be free from mind and to just be present in the moment and experience life. You experience the self shining through that is just peace and joy for no reason. It's when the mind comes give you all these reasons to be upset. Oh, you cut me off on the road, and who do you think you are? You know, I mean, like, you can get upset over anything. It's incredible. The light bulb goes out. You know, I mean, it's like the ego is so easily upset. But that's what this Peaceful Mind Center is here for you. Because I studied a lot of complicated things, and I'm able to explain them in a way that's relatively straightforward and simple and feet on the ground stuff. There's no hooey here, is there? There's nothing to believe in here. Just saying, let's just take an open, objective look here. And so I encourage you to be here and to bring your questions here. If you're practicing, you're going to have questions. Tom, what do I do when I sit down and I meditate? You know, when I sit down and I meditate, I don't know, my mind is doing this and that, and I don't understand. I need those questions to understand where you're at, so that I can speak to you where you're at. Because, you know, people who've been around for a long time know that the longer that you're here, you hear things on a different level, you know? It's just deeper. It's just, it's, you know, like we're deconstructing everything that you thought you were, everything that you believe to be real, so that you can see clearly what's there. And so it takes time for you to be able to do that. Just understand that this is a gradual process. I don't want you to think, oh, I go to satsang and I understand and then I go home and it's over. You come to satsang, you go home and you practice meditation. You know what I mean? And it's in your practice that you begin to realize, you begin to directly experience what I'm so trying to describe to you, and it's very, very difficult to describe. When you start to experience tastes of it on your own, when the ego is gone for a moment, you go, oh my God, I feel so good, this is amazing. You know? That's when you start to understand my words on a deeper level. It's tough from where you're looking to really understand what I'm saying. Because your mind is trying to make an idea out of it. And I'm trying to pull you away from all ideas at the same time. Questions, comments? Would you use the mic, please? No, that's okay. We don't have you mic trained yet. Yeah, that's okay.
You had mentioned about having those flashes of pure joyfulness. So you want to hold on to it, you want to know where it came from. Why is it not there all the time?
Is that mic on?
No.
Oh. Yeah, well, just
Now listen, you're trained.
yeah, well, we're taking it a step at a time, okay? So just hold the button down, you'll see a green light pop on.
Okay.
Yeah, there you see that.
So you had mentioned about having these moments of pure joy that come into you and that you want to hold on to them. And I've been thinking about since I left, and you said how do you hold on to them? I mean, that is probably a long time of practice. Or how do you
There's
even,
so many
once you
things-
recognize it, it's almost like it's gone at that moment because you're in reality maybe. I don't know.
The ultimate question in spirituality is when I say I, what am I pointing to? So there's no me that's holding on to joy. You know? The joy that I am expressing to you is just the joy of being. And what I mean by that is, it's the joy that I am. In other words, have you ever had like a nature moment or a moment in time, or a moment where you stepped out of time and you felt very present and there was just peace for like kind of no reason? Did you ever experience something like that? No reason. That was a transcendent Satori moment when you got to see the self, when you got to experience your true self. You know what I mean? There was no you seeing the self. You are the self. You understand that? You are the self. You're not viewing the self. Then there would be two of you. And so what you're seeing is all of this mind stuff for a moment fall away, time fall away, and you come present into the moment, and your true nature is just there, of peacefulness and joyfulness, without any effort. And then what happened? The mind came back, you came back into time-based reality, and you were back into identification with mind. That moment is the opposite of identification with mind. And so it's going to take you some time to even understand this language, and you know what I mean? Like, but it's self is aware of mind. Okay? Self, peaceful, joyful, just what it is. Without any effort, it doesn't have to do anything to be what it already is. Okay? Self is aware of mind. All right? For most people, mind and self are the same thing. That is the misunderstanding. And so the mind, when the mind acts up, the joy is gone. It's like the moon behind the clouds. The moon is always the moon. The moon doesn't have to work to be the moons. The cloud comes, the mind, and it obscures the moon in the same way. But the moon is still there. The moon is always there. And so what's happening is that the self is the self. You've always been the self. There has never been a time that you have not been the self. But the mind come and obscure the self. And so you don't experience the self directly. You experience the self through the mind, and the mind makes all these great reasons to be upset and feel pain and all of this stuff. So that separation, are you getting cold? Yeah, you want to put that up one? Okay. You know, so it's the whole it's what I'm trying to describe to you is ineffable. It can't be described in words. When you directly experience it, there will be no doubt in your mind, and you've had moments of that. That transcendent state, that enlightened state is what you are. The rest is just a story in your head. That's all. And we have amazing stories about our world, about ourselves. And we live like these stories are real. And we lose touch with the self. The self could care less about any of that. We're going to get to our meditation in a moment. So one of the last things that I want to say is that it is not required to be a human being. It is not required to think. Can you be in this moment without thinking about this moment? Can you bring your attention fully to this moment and give no attention to thoughts? No judgments, no labels. If thought ceased in your mind for 10 seconds, would you disappear? No way. So you can see that you can be here without thought. You know that. Thoughts are optional. If you bring your attention to a thought, you experience a thought, right? What happens when you take your attention away from it? Disappears. So if all you have to do is take your attention away from a thought and it disappears, why are you suffering these thoughts when all you have to do is take your attention away from them? Years and years of therapy. Oh, my thoughts, and this is my thoughts. And you're looking at your thoughts, you're writing down your thoughts. All you have to do is take your attention away, they're gone. But for most people, they are believing themselves to be these thoughts, so they can't just leave them go. And that's uncomfortable. And here's why it's uncomfortable. And then we'll get to our meditation. It's uncomfortable because your whole world and everything that you believe yourself to be is a thought. And so if I come and I take all your thoughts away, I'm taking you away and I'm taking your world away. And that you're likely going to resist. Because you don't know what you are without it. Although you've experienced moments of it. And it's beautiful and amazing. I think that one of the most difficult things in practice for people is to be wrong. And I was wrong about everything. But I was so willing to be wrong. So willing to be wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong about who you are. You're wrong about the world you live in. You're wrong about your relationship with your mind. You're wrong about the thoughts in your mind. They're not you. And what you're perceiving, you are not perceiving clearly. The moment that you become willing to be wrong, you have just taken a quantum leap. in an awesome direction. It will loosen your grip, your mind's grip, on what it really wants to be real. That was never real to begin with. There's no Tom Notarianni. Tom Notarianni is a label that got stuck to me when I got here. But I did not come here Tom Notarianni. I became Tom Notarianni when my parents named me. And then Tom Notarianni, you're a good boy if you do this, bad boy if you do that. You're Italian, you're Catholic, believe this, don't believe that, live this way, don't live that way. Tom Notarianni became a concept, a story, an idea in my head. That is my ego. And it's just a story. It's hard where you are right now to imagine yourself being on this planet without thoughts, without feeling the not understanding, labeling, judging constantly. That's just a conditioned program in your mind. Very unenlightened state that is causal in suffering. And it's good that it causes suffering, because if you weren't suffering, you wouldn't be here. This is what we're working on here every week. This is not small stuff. This is about changing the consciousness of the world. You are not the world. You are part of the world. If you become more conscious, the world becomes more conscious, because you are a part of it. If you want to change the world, change yourself. There's nothing more important than you can do for this world than to evolve out of this mind-identified state. This is what is causal in all of our problems. Period. And without changing this, we can change what we're doing, but it's not going to make a difference. Got it?